everybody. Welcome to Rap, Hip Hop, and Freedom. I am your host, Dr. Philip Fletcher. Thank you for joining me once again on my YouTube channel, Humanity Matters. And today we're going to be looking at Boogie Down Productions, as well as the West Coast All-Stars. Again, why Rap, Hip Hop, and Freedom? Because we're trying to identify the elements, the principles, the values of classical liberalism, libertarianism within the genre, the musical genre of rap and hip hop. And so this is volume 2. And if you've missed anything, hey, you can check out volume 1 as well as volume 2. Some great content as we delve into a lot of different things related to individualism, our relationship to the state, i.e. the government, law enforcement, private property, host of different issues, free speech. So I hope you are learning something. So briefly, when I talk about classical liberalism, what am I talking about? Well, classical liberalism and libertarianism come from different times and have had different catalysts, all right, things that propelled them into the society. And so the former, classical liberalism, was removing the oppression of theocracies, monarchies, and the very notion of it being permissible for a small group to rule over the masses. Whereas libertarianism is addressing the overarches of imperialism, bureaucracies, and progressivism. So this midweek show is designed to look at the various expressions of rap and hip hop and discover the rhythms and the beats of the freedom which exists in the worldwide expression of this music and this culture. And so today we're going to be talking about human agency, and we're going to be talking about solidarity. When I talk about human agency, the ability to choose, to the ability to affect one's situation freely, right? When I talk about subsidiarity, is standing for the flourishing of others. And we find these elements in rap and hip hop. So there's this common retort, right? When there's a shooting of a black person by a non-black person, especially law enforcement, is then followed up with a protest. Why don't y'all protest black on black crime? That's the retort, right? Black on black crime is such an interesting phrase because really it's not applied to any other group experiencing the same phenomenon. Crime happens within groups. Homicides happen within groups. Homicides happen at a higher percentage among same group, people belonging to the same group. So let's look at some facts, right? 1988 homicide rate for American blacks, 40 per 1,000, right? The homicide rate for whites, 28 per 1,000. The homicide rate for Latinos, 35 per 1,000. So as you can see, within groups, within the Americans who are black, within Americans who are white, within Americans who are Latino, we see that homicides happen within those groups. So just to say black on black crime, then we should also say, well, what about white on white crime or Latino crime, right? In 2019, what are we looking at as far as percentages? Well, 88.5% homicide rate among Americans who are black, 78% among Americans who are white, and 60% among Americans who are Latino. And these statistics you can get from the FBI, the Bureau of Judicial Statistics, and I'll put those links in the video description for you to check out yourself. So who are we talking about? Well, back in 1989 and 1990, from the East Coast and the West Coast, East Coast rappers and West Coast rappers, they sought to bring to the forefront their concerns about quote unquote black on black crime. So people have been talking about it for decades. People within the American black community have been raising their voices, their concerns about what is happening in some of these neighborhoods. All right. So the song came out in 1989 called Self-Destruction. In 1989, this song opened with the voice of Malcolm X, who offers a critique of America, and especially American blacks. And the way the song is edited, not only does America have a serious problem, but American blacks have, quote, a serious problem, unquote. These are the words of Malcolm X. This is offered in the context of violent crime between American blacks. The song is an assembly of primarily East rappers to include KRS-One, MC Delight, Kool Moe Dee, MC Light, Heavy D, Dougie Fresh, Public Enemy, Stetisonic, and others. So Heavy D opens up regarding human agency, and he says this, and I quote, "Let's get together so we'll be falling apart. I heard a brother shot another. It broke my heart. I don't understand the difficulty, people. Love your brother. Treat him as an equal. They call us animals. I don't agree with them. I prove them wrong, but right is what you're proving them. Take heed before I lead to what I'm saying, or we'll all be on our knees praying." Close quote. So how do we avoid the serious problem Malcolm X alluded to in the 1960s? Well, Heavy D in this song, Self-Destruction, identifies the problem of violence between these young men and offers the prescription to, quote, "love your brother and treat him as an equal," close quote. This is a willful choice and one of personal responsibility. Heavy D critiques that when violence does occur, it serves as a confirmation of bias by those who have a dehumanized view of American blacks, especially black men, but also black women. Again, asserting human agency, Heavy D, and I'm quoting, "I'll prove them wrong," close quote. So Heavy D is asking for young brothers to choose love and equal treatment over violence. And then we roll into another artist on self-destruction, D Nice, and he talks about solidarity. And I quote, "It's time to stand together in a unity, cause it's not then we're soon to be self-destroyed, unemployed. The rap race will be lost without a trace or a clue but what to do. Is stop the violence and kick the science down the road that we call eternity, where knowledge is formed and you'll learn to be self-sufficient, independent. To teach to each is what rap intended," close quote. So D Nice offers a beautiful description of solidarity and the principles of liberty. First, D Nice calls for American blacks to stand united in the cause to reject violence within the communities, to avoid destruction, to avoid unemployment, and other detrimental phenomena. In exchange for the unproductive outcomes of violence described in other parts of this track, Self-Destruction, D Nice riffs on the opportunities to seize self-sufficiency and independence. I think writers such as Thomas Sowell, Walter Williams, Ludwig von Mises, Murray Rothbard, and Friedrich Bastiat, other names I've mentioned through Volume 1 and 2, they would stand and applaud these sentiments of liberty that has been offered by D Nice. So let's jump forward a year, and let's jump over to the West Coast, right? West Coast rappers, right? What? Gang violence, NWA? What would they have to say? Well, in 1990, a Grammy-nominated song, catch that, Grammy-nominated song called "We Are All in the Same Gang" was released to raise awareness and offer a critique on violence within the American black community. Now, focus is Los Angeles area, Compton, Watts, even in Oakland, Northern California. So, the West Coast Rap All-Stars were made up of NWA, Young MC, Digital Underground, Michelet, Ice-T, MC Hammer, Above the Law, and others. Now, these young men and women hailed from primarily Southern California, all right, in the Los Angeles, South Central, and Compton areas, as well as NorCal, or Northern California. That's where Digital Underground comes from. So we're all in the middle, all right, of the violence between Bloods and Crips. That's the context, and the drug war being prosecuted by local and federal officials. That's a whole discussion all on its own. So King T opens up regarding human agency. Again, we're talking about human agency and subsidiarity. "It's straight up madness everywhere I look. Used to be a straight A student, now he's a crook. Robbing people just to smoke or shoot up. Used to have a crew cut, now he's a poo butt. Dropped out of school and he joins a neighborhood gang, hanging on the streets selling cane to his own people. Now, when I say people, I mean color. You, a stupid mother. I'm trying to stress the fact that you're dumb. Get yourself presentable, son, and just come. Together you better, because pretty soon it's going to be too late. A message from King T, the Great." And then verse 2 from Body and Soul, female rappers, "Sisters, since we are mothers of this earth, it's time we start being good mothers from the birth of our children. No time for sleeping. Teach them to fight and win for the right reasons. It's your time. It's your life. Live it." Close quote. So what happens for a young man or woman to transition from, quote, straight A student, unquote, to someone whose identity is now related to violent crime and has chosen an occupation of drug dealing? King T critiques this phenomenon, which is the story of multiple young persons who have, for whatever reason, chosen to bring harm to his or her neighborhood. Like an older man sitting on a front porch speaking to younger people, King T critiques these actions as a stupid motherfucker, close quote. All right? And dumb, quote unquote. King T identifies the potential in these individuals. Quote, together you better, close quote. Body and Soul speaks to mothers and reminds them of the unique maternal power to influence direction, provide purpose, and discover meaning in the lives of their children. These voices were not silent in the 90s. King T and Body and Soul serve as the tone setters for a track which is going to provide various men and women the opportunity to act prophetically and offer an internal examination. Next comes up Digital Underground regarding solidarity. And they say the underground down for peace among brothers. Kill a black man, what? Yo, what are you, retarded? Tell him, hump. You do work for the Klan, do what you like. Unless you like gangbanging. Let's see how many brothers leave us hanging. Shock G and Humpty, who are the same person, rest in peace Shock G, who passed away earlier this year. They identify an emotional rage because American black men are functioning like the Klan, lynching one another in the streets based on a gang affiliation. Brothers on the basis of a particular affiliation in light of a historical context should not be violently at odds with one another, which ends up with death. Leave us hanging, quote unquote, was an intentional lyric used to reinforce the activities of the Klan. A solid argument could be made gang violence between black males has been more effective than the lynchings of the Klan. So, whatever others said, I want to say this is a true example of Black Lives Matter. The self-destruction track in 1989, We're All in the Same Gang in 1990. These artists from two different American regions recognized a common problem and sought to offer critique, analysis, and solutions. All these, not necessarily depending on whether or not non-black persons did anything. On the importance of human agency illustrated in both tracks, Murray Rothbard, a notable libertarian intellectual, said, and I quote, every man must have freedom, must have the scope to form, test, and act upon his own choices for any sort of development of his own personality to take place. He must, in short, be free in order that he may be fully human, close quote. These two tracks offer an important discussion and support for individuals in the black community, the American black community, to develop choices which can have a positive impact on their individual lives, their families, and their communities. American blacks, you're free, but you must demand more freedom. Freedom from violence and theft. Freedom to be self-sufficient, like D. Nice said. Secondly, Mr. Murray Rothbard stated, and I quote, man is born a tabula rasa. He must learn how to choose the ends that are proper for him and the means that he must adapt to attain them. All this must be done by his reason, close quote. The ends and the means are up to each one of us. But to arrive at our goals, it cannot be at the expense of others. We can't harm one another. We shouldn't take one another's property. On the importance of solidarity and how we should support the free flourishing of others, these songs recognize violence gets in the way. Now, libertarian thought would describe this as a non-aggression principle. In brief, Mises Institute described the non-aggression principle, or NAP, as, quote, the non-aggression principle holds that aggression against the person or property of others is always wrong, where aggression is defined narrowly in terms of the use or threat of physical force, violence, close quote. Applying the definition to human interaction, then, and seeking to achieve a particular ends, it is not morally or ethically acceptable to do harm to another individual. Rothbard, Jesus, would apply the sentiments of these two influential tracks of the 1990s. So, finally, let's put a nail in the coffin. American blacks have not or do not currently address violence, or other negative phenomenon within a particular locale. It's been going on. They talk about it. It's just not sexy to the media or the powers that exist who are seeking to frame a discussion or cast American blacks in a particular light, or dare I say, keep them in a particular shadow. So my encouragement, check out some readings and websites from Mary Rothbard, Friedrich Bastiat. I will put some links in the video description. Check out the great work of mothers who are practicing both human agency and solidarity regarding violence between American black neighbors. Check out voicesofblackmothers.com. I'll put that link in the description as well. Next, let's dispense of this characterization that violent crime is only unique within American blacks, when the stats demonstrate such violence is common within all groups. Hey, in the next 2 weeks, we'll close out Volume 2 of Rap, Hip Hop, and Freedom with Kendrick Lamar, K-Dot, coming from Compton. Hey, y'all remember to be loved, be kind, be generous. Take care. God bless.